watching. So I recently decided that I want to expand my channel and this show beyond just cinematography because as much as I love that is my passion. I want to make movies, I want to tell stories. There's just so many interesting stories out there, and being able to sit down and just have to stop a little bit, what with the pandemic and staying home and quarantine and everything, it's just made me sit down and realize and really appreciate just how many stories are out there, and just to really think about what it is that I'm doing with my life and why. And that made me sit down and just start thinking about why I loved stories. Just ever since I was a little kid, I've always loved them. When I was little, I always had my nose in a book, and watching movies or TV shows were always a special treat. And I remember I would get so frustrated sometimes if I didn't agree with what the characters were doing or the lines, and sometimes I would even be rewriting scenes or stories or scenarios from books and movies in my head if I was, if little me was thinking, oh no, I don't like what they did there, I should have done it better, I would have done it better. And I feel like my entire life, stories have been there. They've been there to help me when I'm having a bad day, to make good ones even better, to teach me lessons. I feel like so much of what I didn't learn from parents or school or teachers or friends, I learned from books and movies and stories. It was stories that made me curious about the world around me, that made me want to learn about things, that made me want to get to know other people and become a better person. I traveled a lot growing up, and stories were how I connected with people. I loved hearing stories from people all over the world and sharing mine, and it was amazing because I feel like at the end of the day, there's so many stories out there, and they're what make us human, and they're what bring us together. And so I want to use this channel to essentially share stories that I think are interesting and relevant. And today I want to talk about this book that I read. This is one of my favorite books that I've read this year. It's called The Best of Enemies. Imagine, what if you were tasked with taking down your worst enemy, somebody who posed a global threat, but then you meet him, and it turns out he's actually a really nice guy, and you have a lot more in common than you thought, and maybe you're actually kind of working towards the same thing after all? When CIA officer Jack Platt and KGB officer Gennady Vasilenko are sent by their respective agencies to recruit each other, they end up bonding instead, forming a decades-long friendship that at certain points they had to hide from their respective agencies. And it's a true story. I think that this is an amazing story because it's still so relevant. I mean, look, you have two guys, total opposites, their countries are enemies, they should have been anything but friends. But at the heart of it, they're both human. We're all human, and at the end of the day, the only way that we can really hope to understand each other or make a difference in the world, or even beat the other guys if that's what your goal is, I mean, how else are you going to do that if you don't take the time to sit down and get to know them and understand them? I mean, this book, a lot of stuff happens. It is a wild, wild adventure, but just the main message, the main thing is that it all happened because they tried to understand each other. They weren't just writing each other off as, oh look, he's a bad guy. They took the time to get to know each other. When you get past all of that stuff on the surface, at the heart of it, we're all human, no matter where we're from. So in the beginning, the CIA was really interested in seeing if Jack Platt could turn Gennady Vasilenko into a double agent. So they basically gave him a ton of money and told him, hey, go out and schmooze this guy. So on the government's dime, they had a total blast. Jack Platt and some of his other CIA buddies took Gennady out to fancy restaurants, they shot illegal weapons, played volleyball, they even called themselves the Three Musketeers. He always made it pretty clear, like, hey guys, I really like you, you're cool and all, this is a lot of fun, but I love my country. At a certain point, the US government realized that they were never going to turn Gennady Vasilenko into a traitor, and so they pulled the plug on the operation. But by that point, Jack Platt was already head over heels in friendship with Gennady. It was too late. They were real good buddies. At that point, even though Operation Turn Gennady into a double agent was over and officially considered a fail, Jack and Gennady still stayed in touch occasionally for agency business, and their friendship continued. Eventually, both countries got a little suspicious of the fact that these guys were friends, and so they had to keep things under wraps. And they managed to stay in touch, stay connected, be friends, and then Long time later, though, here's when things really start to heat up. During the Cold War, there was a lot of sneaking and a lot of spying going on. While Gennady and Jack's secret friendship was being kept under wraps, there were a couple of double agents among the U.S. government. Double agents for the Soviet Union who were leaking American secrets to the Russian government. This led to not only security breaches, but also to the death of many, many agents whose covers were blown by these traitorous double agents. Of course, the U.S. government was desperate to sniff out the mole before any more lives were lost, while the Russians were determined to protect their most valuable assets. When you're sniffing out a mole, what's more suspicious than a CIA agent and a KGB agent who are, or at least were, really tight buddies? Their agencies totally got suspicious before traitors Aldrich Ames and Robert Hansen, two of the most notorious double agents in U.S. history, both currently still serving life prison sentences, were found and wrapped up. One of our heroes has landed in some serious hot water. Can their friendship save them? Will it be enough? And hey, how much can you really trust a spy after all? You'll find all the answers in this book, which I highly recommend. Thank you so much for watching. Questions, comments, requests, drop them in the comments or in my DMs, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Don't die.